Right, we're at the exhausting point of fitting these bunch of pipes. It's blown a gale today and nice and wet with it, so I'm in the tent. So I need to fit these bits at the front onto the headers out of the head. So I need to fit those bits, and then this centre pipe has to follow them in, and then followed by the centre pipe. We've got this intermediate section which follows that. And then we've got this thing that looks like some kind of missile that's going in the middle. That's the silencer. And then there's a big long pipe that goes out the back. So that's basically it. I've got a bunch of new clamps and what have you. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to try and fit this bugger. Just as a quick update, you probably noticed that a few other things got done here. So I finished off the wiring, so that's all good to go. So really getting the exhaust on is all we need to do in order to get this thing to fire up, which I know is always an exciting moment. So I'm going to crack on and get this done. I'll try and film a bit as I go along, but it's blowing so much here it does make it quite difficult. Okay, here we go. So starting at the front, we've got these brackets with coach bolts in them. That's for the very front. There'll be another one that sits on the back of that when it's on. And then the centre silencer hangs off these bolts on the gearbox. So I've got to get underneath and hang it on there. Not quite sure how that's going to go. There's not a lot of space. But that's what you need to do to get that into place. So I need to do that next, I think, so that I can then see where the midsection of the exhaust is going to sit. Let's have a wrestle. So, yeah, this is a bit of a wrestle. So I've got the exhaust orientated by actually lying it on its back. So putting it in backwards with the pipes pointing towards the back of the car, if you can see that. There you go. But there's still not enough clearance because the distance between the pipes is too wide to go through the holes in the chassis each side, as you can see. So look, I've got one pipe there that will come up. That's got no problem, and got maybe an inch on the other side of it. But the other pipe is down here, and he's got 3 inches. So yeah, I've tried wrestling it about, and I think what I need to do is to jack the front of the car up, so I've got some more space underneath to move it around, because there just isn't enough room with the car on the deck like this. I'm going to try that. So I don't know what that bolt's doing. I've got this. So I've got it jacked up a little bit. Let me just see if I can wrestle it in from here.
But of course, it wasn't just Dave looking. Over 200 FBI agents and journalists
Kind of. Got one end in.
Looking for some new detail about the day. And the town soon got specific. Dave sent Georgia and I this photo of a t-shirt from that time. It said, "I survived."
Stuck on the drum.
But after months of investigating, the FBI left. The only thing they found was a bunch of anti-government guys
let's go
with
higher.
no connections to the day.
What you find is they took this tremendous amount of smoke, and it's very hard to get to the fire.
This is J.M. Berger again. He's an academic researcher who studies extremism. He's written about McClure and he's a socialist.
A lot of the FBI investigation of the militia movement prior to Oklahoma City and after Oklahoma City was limited by the American citizen rights associated people involved. I think if you look at America in the post 9/11 era, you'll see that the FBI was much more willing to plunge into a social connections among people Muslims than when they were white men.
Right, got that past the drum. This side.
Taking those kinds of standards, if you'd done that kind of investigation after the Oklahoma City bombing, I think we would have a different story.
Yeah, there we are. Right, okay. So, guessing the
Yeah, quite
Undercover agent Greg Rogers.
handbrake cable will have to go over the top of the pipe.
Putting it together,
You know,
And then-
keeping a secret is almost impossible.
It sandwiches between the
FBI agent who spent
two
2
washers at the
decades
top.
undercover with these kind of groups saying he didn't
Probably
think
can't
the story
see any of
stopped
that
with
because-
McVeigh, Nichols, and Fortier.
I'm working
And he's not alone in that.
on the top. So,
You know, I don't believe
my ratchet and screw this in.
dog, as the extremists say,
Journalist Bill Moreland again.
but I also don't believe the government always tells the American public everything there is to know.
I mean the government. Why would the government go after a wider network beyond McVeigh?
Well, it's my belief that they had McVeigh. I mean, the government's case is ironclad. But when the government, in any case, whether it's Oklahoma City or, you know, the basic bank robbery, and if they've got
So, you can see here that exhaust over the top of the cables there. So, I'm just going to run this bolt up.
So they want to
Do that with one hand.
convict the guy, send him to death row, and testify.
Okay. So, I haven't tightened any of these up.
Presented by me.
I'm not going to tighten any element of it, the exhaust up until I've got all of the elements all where they should be. So this is going to move around for the time being so we can line everything up. So let's now see if that's gone off a bit. Yeah, it's got some gasket sealer around here. And then we can see how this other pipe goes in. That looks like it's going to come about there. Oops, sorry. So it fits on there and goes out the back of the car there. So actually that's a pretty good fit, isn't it? For an aftermarket part, that looks pretty good. Okay, so I can't do all this and hold the camera at the same time, so I think my next job is to try and put the heat exchangers on so that these pipes can join up, and then that gives us the right position. Right, I'll do that now. Put this off. So I've got some gasket seal on there, some gasket seal on there. I've got gasket sealer on both ends of the pipes there. My general approach with doing exhaust is to then just leave that to go off, so it forms a kind of like a crappy O-ring, and then with a crappy O-ring you get a decent seal. That's always the theory. So whilst that's going off, I'm going to move down to the back and see what we need to do to get this thing onto the bottom of the car.
We could get something much worse from the drug.
So here's a lesson for new players. When you order your exhaust kit from your supplier of choice, we should talk about them sometime, what you get is 2 clamps for that pipe and this pipe, and a third clamp that does the pipe to the intermediate. What you don't get is the clamps for the front, for the heat exchangers. So fortunately my local supplier can get me some for tomorrow morning, but I'm not going to get this done now because I didn't realise that. I assumed that you would get 4 of these clamps so you could do the whole thing. Anyway, you can learn by my mistakes, and make sure that you order a couple of extra ones of these. They're 49 mil it says. They're exactly the same as the ones that go onto here, so you just need to order a couple of extra ones of those and then you'll be able to do yours straight away. Okay, I'm going to see what else I can get done now. Right, I'm just about to, now that I've got the clamps, get the last ones on, so connect up the heat exchanger.
Photos of their protest were posted on Facebook, and within hours, hundreds of replies appeared defending the market.
These ones I got from the local place, not quite as good. They haven't got welded in bolts, which just means you've got to do it with 2 hands. So not quite so clever, but you know, £3.60 I think for a pair of them. Not really worth worrying about.
Kids here. Nobody was doing anything about it, she says. We would beat the trolls at their own game. Gina's group began creating scores of
So I put some
accounts. Facebook doesn't require photos
gasket sealing stuff
so they could defend the girls
on
personal attacks
the joint. I put it on the joint before. I put it on the joint yesterday, so it had built up a kind of a sticky O-ring. So I did that to start with, and I've just put a load more gunk on it, so that when I put this on, it'll all squish into roughly the right place.
But the problem of trolling has far from gone away in the Philippines. Journalists, human rights defenders and politicians have all reported the
Line-up's always the challenging bit.
on social media. I too have been threatened with posts saying I will be hunted down and beaten and that I should watch my back. Earlier this year, a slew of new comments appeared on another Facebook post. "Hey Howard, come here and I'll beat you dead," was one post. Another said, "Shoot up Mr. Howard Johnson, fake news." Despite the online abuse, I have never been threatened in real life in the Philippines. But online trolling can precede deadly outcomes. Recently, two left-wing activists, Randall Echanes and Zara Alvarez, who had been trolled online, were killed in the space of a week. A fellow activist received
It's just important to make sure that the
warning that she would be next. They have been
flanges
accused of being communist,
are covered by the clamp,
to the country's
otherwise
decades-old
it won't work.
insurgency.
So I'm just checking as I go round.
Anti-Terrorism Act could weaponize the troll's posts as it enables the detention of suspects.
Just doing it all with my fingers, so we get it in the right position.
Accused of left-wing extremism could be detained as a result. So what has the government done to tackle the problem of troll farms?
Let's move out
I
there.
asked Presidential Communications
So they're a bit
Jose Edco.
spread out everywhere.
We're not in the
Right.
business of. He hesitated. If you're asking me as a government official, I am definitely against any such practice, if there's any at all. I swear to God. But I hadn't asked if the government was behind troll farms. Mr. Echo said he believes troll threats could come from a myriad of sources, including any local official you'd had a brush with recently. Facebook told me they're committed to removing content that violates their policies, disrupting coordinated inauthentic networks, and limiting the spread of misinformation. The Troll Patrol are not as active these days, believing freedom of speech is finally drowning out the bullies. Nowadays, we no longer hide under these personas, Gina told me. We will still speak out against abuses, but this time we speak as ourselves. But the battle is far from over, because while social media companies allow the creation of anonymous accounts,
Looks pretty good.
will keep posting their threats with
I
impunity.
think we're okay there. So the next one I've got to do is this one down here. But the battery's about to go flat yet again, so I better switch it off. It's the same process. You're not missing anything. How about that? Lots of 13mm.
Hi, thanks for having me. So I think there are a few differences between the new job support scheme and the job retention scheme as it stands in October. So the first is that whereas under the job retention scheme you didn't have to work any hours to qualify for the scheme, under the new scheme it's only eligible for people
That's a
working
good
at
fit.
least a third of their usual hours.
Plenty of juice around the edge.
From the point of view of employees, if they're kept on and if they're working a third of their usual hours, the level of support is actually quite similar. So they
As I
still
don't like
have
this kind of clamp, I'm going to put some more on anyway. There's the spanner.
and therefore it's much less incentive to keep people on under this new scheme. So whereas in October under the job retention scheme, someone working a third of the usual hours would have had 46% of their usual pay covered by the employers. In the new job support scheme, the employer would have to cover 55% of their usual pay for someone working just a third of their
I'm just
usual
going to
hours.
put a blob in there.
As I understand it, employers have to pay, you've just said, at least a third of wages for work done,
Exactly.
then a fifth of wages for
Right.
for work that is not being done.
So that one.
Won't they be tempted to just ignore this scheme and just make their full-time workers part-time instead?
Yes, I think that's absolutely a worry. So if the employer wants to have someone working, say, a third of the usual hours, they could subsidise their wages in this furlough scheme, or they could just take them off furlough altogether and just cut their pay, as you said. And it's unclear at the moment, I mean, especially because vacancies are so low and
are new jobs, aren't there? For example, Keith that we just spoke to, he is now in online deliveries, only part-time, he's working as a van driver for a supermarket. Can these jobs fill the employment gap?
So our research suggests that there are new jobs out there and they can recover the depths of the crisis in, say, March. They're nowhere near their levels before the crisis started, so vacancies were very low compared to what we usually expect at this time of the year. And crucially, the sorts of vacancies that are out there tend to be very high skilled, they tend to require long periods of training. So in general, it's not clear that the people who are most at risk at the moment, so people working in hospitality, would be able to just take on these new jobs. So as you say, of course, there are sectors that are up in demand, for example, in deliveries, but that's nowhere going to be near enough to cover the appalling demand that we're seeing.
Jobs in the entertainment industry, they will surely be perfectly viable again one day. They're just not viable now. Which jobs do you think may go for good?
Exactly. So I think there's a delicate balance.
Yeah, it's about equal.
Entertainment jobs are likely to bounce back once the pandemic is over. But then I think this is increasingly true, the longer the pandemic drags on.
Hello, boy.
People's preferences and behaviours are.
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks.
That I think makes it look like the economy will not.
Yeah, I'm just fitting the exhaust to the 2CV, so we'll have a go this afternoon, I think.
We might not go back to
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, it'll be very funny. Yeah, it's just about there, really. I mean, there's not that much more to do. Yeah, that's on the car. We'll find out if it works when we start the engine, clearly, but hopefully it will be all right. So I'm just tightening up one of these manifold clamps. This exhaust is a bit of a bastard to fit, to be honest. It's everything sort of flops about the place, so it's a bit of a bastard. Yeah. About that, but well, that is the big question, really. So put a bit of this on here. Smear it about the place. There is a bit of a wrinkle with this. There's two lengths of strap. I'm not sure which one goes to the strap just on the chassis here, just more or less in line with the back wheel, or it's a short one. And I've got this weird arrangement because this is a right-hand drive car where there's another mounting that goes on the rear bumper. And I haven't fitted the rear bumper, so we can't work that bit out yet. So I'm going to go with the short one. Somebody would say, no, wrong decision. I'm going to go with the short one on the back here, and then I'm going to worry about all the other stuff later. And if I've made a mistake, then it's not going to be too difficult to go back and change it. But I just need to get this on because we want to start the car up, don't we? So a bit of seal copper grease on the threads. Just noticed there aren't any spring washers on there. Let's go and find some spring washers. Right.
Only really long enough to leave the job, and then I was completely. I sat there and I was like,
front. I come to tighten that up. This is the rear, where the rear hanger goes, just here. So there's a little cup that goes on the back of that, and then we're going to put a washer, penny washer, and then the nut. I'll come back and put a springy on that in a minute. I have to go and dig out the 7mm ones. And then we can put this hanger goes onto the pipe. Then we just slide it up and put it through that hole. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to need 2 hands for it though, so I can't hold this. So that's got the pipe in place. So the rubbery bit is going to get sandwiched in between. I think that's probably doing it. So I'll put this down again. Okay, so that hanger's on. It's in the, I think about the right position. I'm supporting the bend in the pipe because otherwise the tail of the pipe will go at a funny angle. I'm now looking at this thing here and thinking that is probably the right bracket for the exhaust. So I might use that. I've got this long thing here, you see, that would fit just about perfectly there, wouldn't it? So I think I might put that on there. I'll do it now. So that's the rear end one done. We've got the middle one there. I can probably take this out now. It's not needed to support. So that looks like it's hanging low to me. Generally. Let's have a look at that. Right, so I still wasn't quite happy with how low the silencer was sitting, so I did that radical thing that you do when you get to that position and thought I'll have a look at the book. So I actually had, instead of the silencer hanging off the bottom of this thing, it actually goes through the middle of it. So the clamp goes on the bottom. So I've just loosened everything up, turned it all over, so it will go on the other side now, which it seems to be slightly happier with. So yeah, oh well, there we go. Read the book first. Lesson. Right, so if we can get some fuel up and turn the engine over to get some oil pressure. We've got it in neutral first. A good start, isn't it? Right, stuck a gallon in the tank, so let's see if we can churn it over and get some fuel up. I would hope to be getting fuel by now.
Pubs, restaurants and bars that came in last week in England, Wales and Scotland has made it even more difficult for taxi drivers to find fares. Our reporter Sam Fennick is live at what used to be one of the UK's busiest taxi ranks. I'm outside Manchester Piccadilly train station. Before lockdown, 23 million passengers would pass through here every year. During the week it's busy with commuters. It's only 2 hours from London and about an hour and 20 from Birmingham. And at the weekend it's busy with people coming to Manchester for a city break and football fans arriving into the station on their way to watch Manchester United and Man City. The taxi rank here usually has queues of people, and today there are queues of taxis. You might be able to hear the diesel engines running just behind me. I've been speaking to some of the drivers this morning. They say they're waiting for about 2 hours for a fare, and that the average fare is about £6. As I stand here now, there are taxi drivers out of their cabs having chats with each other because they're just not moving. And it's not just, as you say, Manchester cabbies who are worried about this. The Taxi Drivers Union, United Private Hire Drivers, say that the UK fares are down by 80%.
There it is.
I've been speaking to Roy Blees. And
so let's just make sure we've got...
They run
Pump doing something.
In Trafford in Greater Manchester. Roy takes it out during the day. Shirley goes out at the weekend. On a normal
Interesting.
day before lockdown.
Doesn't seem to be pumping.
Will about 120, 140 pounds a day. But that would be for 4 o'clock in the morning or 2 in the afternoon. A couple of days work. Now I'm doing 14, 15, and then maybe 8.
14 or 15 hours a day.
The living, but that's all. Get up in the morning, out at 8 o'clock, home at 10, 11 o'clock in the night, £80. You take the fuel out of it, and everything else, all the welding stuff, tires and mechanical fees and things. You don't even make $5 an hour. It's dreadful.
Last weekend I was down 70% on the 2 nights, not just on the one. I was out 3.5 hours and earned £16.50, out of which I had my diesel and running costs, etc., etc. It's not even. Sam, it's not even a minimum wage. What normally happens is after 11 is when what we call tariff 2 is a third extra after 11 o'clock. I went
That pump is definitely pumping. Right, put it in. Right, we have to do some investigating.
I've been there 2 hours, 20 minutes.
Right, so I've managed to get fuel coming out the pipe. Drawn that up with my little thing, which I've now put down somewhere and can't find. It's a little hand pump just to pull it up. Sometimes you get an airlock in these things. I will replace this obviously, but I'm just checking that things are running. So let's oh, there it is. One of them. So we've got fuel. We should have electric. So she goes. Scary. Well, it works. That wasn't too difficult. As usual, the battery packed up at a crucial moment. Yeah, we're up and running. So we can now go to the starter, flick the key, and off she goes. See, we're getting fuel, so that's all cool. Carburetor's a bit stally. Got to do something with that. At least it's working, that's the main thing. Float's obviously doing its job because we're not drinking lots of fuel here. And now we've stopped. Interesting. Try the choke. Do you know what? I've got a suspicion that that cable's fallen off. Yeah, look. This cable is not quite long enough to go on there. I've knocked it off when I was fiddling, obviously. So a little, doesn't want any choke now, so that's good. but we're fluffy. Obviously we need to do something with this carburetor. But there we go, we seem to be working.